Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Five Star Revolution podcast with your host, CJ Price. Thank you so much for joining us right here on the Five Star Revolution podcast. Go over to Facebook right now. We're still doing a $200 Visa gift card giveaway. So go to Facebook, share, like our Facebook page, share, like, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Five Star Revolution. Chris Ryan has technical difficulties, so his camera's now working. Guys, you can't see his face, but his great voice. How you doing tonight, Mr. Ryan?
Doing good. Thanks for having me, man.
No problem, man. Sorry about the camera deal. We try to fix it, but unfortunately, you know how things go.
It's fine, man. I spent most of my career hiding my face anyway, so this is not that different.
So let's talk about your childhood. Were you a fan growing up as a child, or?
Absolutely. It didn't really start until I was 8 years old, and I watched the June 16th, 2005 edition of SmackDown. That was my very first exposure to professional wrestling TV. That's where I first saw The Undertaker. He was in the main event against John Bradshaw Layfield. And from then on, despite my mom having an issue with me being up past 10 on a school night, I just kept going back, and I've just loved professional wrestling nonstop ever since then.
And who were your favorite wrestlers growing up, if you don't mind sharing?
Well, number one was The Undertaker. It was my gateway wrestler into all this. But also growing up, I looked up to guys like John Cena and Shawn Michaels, Rey Mysterio, Triple H. Off the top of my head, CM Punk also. I saw him in 2006, so that counts enough. And uh, yeah, that's just my childhood. My teenage years, I saw for the first time guys like Daniel Bryan and Kenny Omega, and I started watching a lot more Eddie Guerrero, and now I take so much more from Eddie Guerrero than I ever really did then. And Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, a lot of really talented guys around today that started up on the indies and were fresh into like the first NXT years and the New Japan years. Like these are just a couple of samples of names that have really inspired me and names that I'm always taking inspiration from.
So how'd you get your start into the professional wrestling business?
Well, I actually started training about 7 years ago at a training facility on Staten Island. I'm not gonna say the name of this company out loud, but that was pretty much where I got my start. That's how I learned how to bump. That's how I got my original characters. That's how I met my head trainer, Jake Gomez, who some of you might know as the King of Chaos, Logan Black, who has just been an absolute treasure to be around. He is like a real father figure to me. He's always watching out for me. He's taught me everything I know, and yeah, like just 7 years ago this month is pretty much how that all got started. And 7 years later, I am probably probably the best I've ever been. I'm the most confident I've ever been, at least as far as who my character is and just how I can move in the ring. I think right now I'm definitely at my best.
So I've heard of Logan Black, and I've also seen him wrestle in my area. I'm from the Massachusetts area, and I believe he's part of a tag team or something like that. And he's a pretty good dude, and he's a pretty good wrestler, man. So I'm sure you're in good hands at his training school.
Yeah, Jake's just one of those guys who really understands the business and just understands entertainment in general. He's a huge fan of comic books, and he's always like drawing parallels to storytelling, and professional wrestling is no different than storytelling in any other media. And he just really gets this, and he's always trying to keep up to date with what's going on in the business, and really just like doing everything he can to just make sure every one of his students is the best they could possibly be, and trying to really trying to create something or somebody that will really make a difference in this industry.
So you were talking about your character. You mind explaining a little bit about who Chris Ryan is and the character?
Chris Ryan, basically, it's pretty much who I am as a person, just turn up to 11. Um, if you A lot of people ask where the whole one-winged dragon thing comes from. To me, that is my take on saying he's an underdog. Like Chris Ryan, he's not a very tall dude, but he is incredibly passionate about this business. He is not going to quit until you make him stop. He is pretty much just that never give up, never say die personality just encompassed.
Sounds like a pretty cool character to me, man. So do you remember your first match? And if you do, what do you remember from that match? What did you learn from it?
Well, I've had kind of like three like real debuts. One of them was part of a battle royal where I got eliminated third by getting gorilla pressed out to the ring. Just off the top of my head, I'm just thinking like, wow, that was so cool. That's just such a cool way to go out. The second was my actual real match that I have recorded and put on the internet. Was against a masked J. George Estrella, and it was pretty much just a squash match. Like he was pretty much just letting me like just get all my good stuff in, and I really commend him for that. My first actual match was at a church on Staten Island back in March of 2015, and I just remember my family was there, and everything's really just kind of like that whole match itself is kind of a blur, but I do remember that feeling of just being like, I'm doing this. I am doing this. I talked about doing this 10 years ago, and now I'm finally doing this. I am living my dream, man. This is incredible.
So with 7 years in the business, what would you say are some of the highlights of your career so far?
Quite a bit. Some noteworthy names I shared a ring with was Badass Billy Gunn, where we did this whole like D-Generation X homage where two of them, Scotty Priest and Dirtbag Dan, were each the Road Dogg Jesse James and the Badass Billy Gunn, and I was China, and I was literally just copying China's
Did we lose
world.
you?
I'm still. We're cutting a promo first of all, and Billy Gunn at one point he points to me and says, "Who is that?" Man, man, China lost a lot of weight. Another one, this is kind of similar vein, but we did a free man band shtick with Jinder Mahal literally a year before he won the WWE Championship. If you
Nice.
told me that was gonna happen, I probably would have just looked at you like, you're insane. No way. So yeah, that was cool, and that's just two names I shared locker rooms with. I've also shared locker rooms with Bobby Roode and Gangrel and Drew McIntyre. And I also, one other really big highlight for me is I had a tryout at Evolve Wrestling that was being watched by Tommaso Ciampa, who after the match just gave everybody feedback, some of the best advice like I probably ever got just from the seminar itself and from that tryout match. And funny enough, this was right before like everything went into lockdown. So I'm glad I got to have that one moment before the end of the world.
That's freaking awesome, man, that you had all those experiences and got to share locker rooms with some of the best superstars that are going today.
Yeah.
So when you go to a new promotion, do you try to have the best match on the card, or do you just go there and absorb everything and just try to learn?
My big thing is that I'm not concerned about wrestling the best match. I'm just concerned about making people remember my match. Remember that I was there. Remember who Chris Ryan is. Build a connection with a new audience. Get the promoter's attention so it could be like, hey man, like you did really good out there. Hey, we got another thing coming up. You think you're interested? That kind of stuff. That's always what I'm pushing for. I'm not pushing to be the best. I am just pushing to be one of the best.
That's a pretty good analogy right there and a great mindset to have. So,
Thank you.
no problem. So, how does somebody like you deal with backstage politics?
Uh, Well, the first 5 years of my career, I definitely had to do a lot of manual labor just to ensure that I had a spot on the card. I just had to make sure I was on the promoter's best best footing, because if I just made one mistake, I might be going to the pre-show, or I might not even be on the show at all. Because there have been times when he didn't like something I was doing and just cut a match that I was already booked for, or just replaced me. So yeah, I guess like advice I'll give anyone is just recognize when you're dealing with a very toxic promoter. Of course, obviously, you want to be on their good side. Like, you want these people to like you, but just recognize when there's a good personality. You should not have to deal with politics. You should just be able to put on a show for the people, and just all this other stuff coming. It's like, oh no, like this person's like doing this thing, so, and you're not doing this thing. I'm just like, yeah, man, just put on a show. That's what people are here to see. Just listen to what people want. Don't listen to what you want. It's ridiculous.
I totally agree, man. I totally agree with that. Uh, Especially in smaller indie promotions where I think a backstage politics shouldn't be a thing, but who am I to say? So, do you mind sharing what's your favorite wrestling promotion you worked for so far and why?
Well, off the top of my head, Evolve was one thing. That company was just so warm and welcoming, and the fact that they let me be there at all and have a chance to try out for there, that really means a lot to me. As far as regular promotions go, I am primarily a regular at Pro Wrestling Magic, which I'll just say it. Pro Wrestling Magic was the company that really actually gave me a chance to just do whatever I wanted and just like be myself, show people who I am. I don't have to hide behind a character. I could just go out there and I can make a connection with people by just being me. So in my own way, after 5 years of just being in purgatory, Pro Wrestling Magic was really the place where I got a proper reboot, and I just got to fully figure out who I am and not just have to do what not have somebody just pulling strings and telling me do this, do that, act like this, say this. No, I just be who you are. That's pretty much what I would tell anybody out there. Just make sure it's an extension of who you are. Be real.
I'm glad that promotion was willing to give you a chance and open the doors for you and give you a chance to show who you are and what you're about. So
Thing it
without
definitely feels good.
without
I'll tell you that much.
so without saying names, mind sharing the worst promotion you worked for?
Worst promotion I've worked for. I don't really like naming names of promotions. I just don't want anybody to have any dirt on me. The only thing I will say is that I have worked with some promotions that had promise, but just became a victim of its own ego. And I look at the state of where certain companies were at 7 years ago when I started and where they're at now, and it is absolutely just comedic. It's like you had something going there and you just absolutely killed it because you were making so many dumb decisions. And I'm not talking about one specifically, because I have worked at other promotions where they don't know what they're doing. Not a whole lot, fortunately. I like to choose good enough promotions, but you actually go there after a booking, not knowing anything about them, and you realize this is doo doo. But fortunately, I have not worked at that many of those promotions. I'm not going to say any out loud, but they are out there, and they've definitely left a bad taste in my mouth.
I totally agree, man. I used to be a wrestler myself back in the day. I retired about 2 years ago before COVID hit, and I dealt with a lot of promoters who were shitty, just shitty. And thank God I don't mess with those guys anymore. I don't miss it, trust me.
Yeah, yeah, no, stay
So,
away from the shindies, people.
so this is a little segment that I'm trying on my podcast, and so far it's been a little successful, and hopefully
Right?
you want to take part of it.
Okay.
I asked the wrestler to cut a promo, whether it's face or heel, and for 30 seconds, if you can do that for us, please.
All right, I could do it. Do you want me to talk about anything specific, or do you want to just like give me like a maybe a
Just
character
pretend
introduction?
pretend like you're in a match, an upcoming world title match, and you're a face or a heel, whatever you want to do, and just cut a promo on that.
Okay, sure. Okay. For 7 years, I have worked my heart out. I have hurt. I have been through so much pain. I have been through so much disappointment, and I have been through so much. Through it all, I have been through a whole lot of triumph. And coming up soon, you're gonna see the absolute best of the one-winged dragon, Chris Ryan. And I promise you, you might not believe me now, but by the end of the time, when that bell rings at the end of the match, you will not be a doubter. You will not be a skeptic. You will believe in the one-winged dragon. And I don't make promises that I can't keep.
I like that, man. That's pretty cool. That's pretty good. I like that.
Yeah.
So I'm taking it that you're a face right now.
Yeah, I'm a face primarily, although I do work Funhouse Wrestling and I work a heel gimmick out there, so that's the one exception. But for the most part, I do try to be a good guy, and for the most part, I think I'm pretty good at that.
So is that your favorite thing to do? Is being a baby face right now in your career?
Yeah, I absolutely love being a babyface. I'll be honest, being a heel, in my opinion, is a little bit more fun because you can like have a little more range. With when you're a babyface, you need to be a little bit more conservative because you got like maybe a younger viewer out there who might look up to you, and you want to be as positive a role model as you could possibly be. But yeah, like I really do like just that feeling of just having people in your corner, hearing them clap for you when you're down and just like cheering for you and just they want you to win. That really makes me feel alive. And after so many years of like being bullied and just being like ridiculed and doubted that I can't make anything in this business, that's the best feeling in the world to me.
Hey man, I was bullied too, so I know how that feels, and I'm sorry that you got that same feeling. I'm not sure what you went through, but I went through some tough times in my day, and I can't imagine what you went through. So, but now you can bully those bullies in the ring.
Yeah, pretty much. Like that's what it's all about. It's all about equivalent exchange. You beat me up, I'm gonna give you an equal amount.
So, besides pro wrestling, are there any other sports that you watch or do?
No.
You
I was a mat wrestler a little bit in high school, but that's about it. Like sports just never really like clicked with me. Like I tried soccer for a little while. I tried karate. I think I tried out for football and baseball when I was like really younger, but just never really clicked with me. Like I wasn't a sports type of person. Personally, I was more of a nerd. I was more of a video gamer. I was more of a comics person. I was that 1980s nerd stereotype. And yeah, pretty much like I didn't really like think I was like cap I honestly didn't think I was capable of this type of stuff, or maybe I just like wasn't really that into it. But yeah, pretty much like it's all just been like professional wrestling to me, where I grew up in a household of football and baseball fans. Like I was the wrestling fan. I was the one that brought professional wrestling into my household.
so why does wrestling mean so much to you?
I mean, for me personally, like it's just when I was a kid, I wasn't really like very social, and I didn't have a whole lot of friends. But professional wrestling was just the one thing that always stayed with me when I felt alone, when I was in a really bad place, when I didn't have anywhere to go on a weekend night or anything like that. It's just professional wrestling has been the one pure thing that's been able to make me consistently happy for my entire life. While so many other interests came and went, or you grew out of it, or maybe you rediscovered it later, professional wrestling was it was the one constant. Like it was the one thing that everybody knew me for loving. It was the one thing that I've always been defined for my whole life. And it's the one thing that's just to me, honestly, I think this is just what I was put on this earth to do. Like I was born to be a part of the professional wrestling industry.
And what are you looking to get out of this world of professional wrestling? Are you trying to get signed to the big stage, or Do you want to be in the Indies for the rest of your life? I'm sure that's not your goal, but what is your goal?
I mean, at this point, like, you really need to, like, realize that nothing is set in stone. We just went through a worldwide pandemic where there was absolutely no wrestling going on the independents. Not a whole lot was going on in the major leagues, but they still made it work, God bless, to bring people regular entertainment. But yeah, living through all of that and being able to come back to the indie scene after all this mostly quiet down, it made me realize just how blessed I am to be doing this at all. So if I am on the indies for the rest of my life, I'm totally fine with that. But with that said, I do hope to make a much brighter living. I want to be on a big stage. I want to be on TV. I want to be on much bigger pay-per-view events. I want to reach a wide enough audience so that I can make people realize that nothing is impossible. If you really want something and you work hard for it, it's going to happen. And if I can make one little kid watching professional wrestling realize that, and maybe just come to me and say, "Hey, you really inspired me. I want to be a wrestler because you made me want to be a wrestler." If I can just get one of those, then I will be able to retire happy.
So, how did you stay focused during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic?
Well, mostly like I try to make a regular home workout schedule just to keep myself in shape when not being able to go to the gym or being able to go to work. And also I just try to watch as much wrestling as I could on the network or Peacock or Fight TV or IWTV, this type of stuff. Just trying to keep myself up and just remind myself that there's hope. Like, professional wrestling is still alive, it's still going. Nothing's gonna kill it. When you get back there, you freaking work your heart out because you have gone months of not being able to do this, and you come back with that fire, with that passion. And fortunately, during the pandemic, I had plenty of time to think about who I was in the ring and who Chris Ryan was. I actually came up with the One Wing Dragon nickname during that. I was playing a lot of Final Fantasy VII during that time. So that's where I got the nickname from. And yeah, just that's pretty much what helped me survive. Like, just staying within the wrestling bubble and just always having that constant reminder.
Hey man, I'm glad that you kept your mind straight and you stayed focused on wrestling. You didn't give up on the dream because a lot of people gave up and a lot of people became lazy during the pandemic, unfortunately.
Yeah, I definitely I've known a couple of people that like hung up the boots during that or even afterwards, and it sucks, but you have to realize that this is a tough business and it can really drain you. It was draining me for a while a few years ago, and I even reached a point where I was thinking about if I even wanted to do this anymore. But I reached out to other people and I tried new things, and now I am more I am more determined than I've ever been. I did not even think that that'd be possible when I don't think I've been this determined since my rookie year, and probably even more than that because now I actually have a chance to make something special of myself.
So, what can we expect out of Chris Ryan in the next 3 years?
Next 3 years. Um, I'll say this. I have a special little project going on right now that will hopefully see the light of day. I don't want to say what it is yet, but we are pretty much mostly done filming this, and we are pretty much getting closer to the editing phase of said project. But like I said, I'm not gonna say what it is. Want to keep it. I want to keep it secret, but you can expect to see that sometime within the next 3 years. As far as my wrestling career goes, at the very least, at some point within the next 3 years, I'm sure I'll see a championship around my waist or on my shoulders, and at the very least, I will just be consistently, regularly doing everything I can to just give people something to remember. No matter how big or how small, I am gonna make people remember who I am.
And hopefully, we can see you on AEW Dark someday.
You never know. Hopefully.
So, besides those bigger companies like WWE, Impact Wrestling, or AEW, are there any promotions that you have your eye on that you want to wrestle for?
Well, I actually did make a agreement this morning with Creative Pro Wrestling, so you'll see me on
Nice.
there soon. Uh, any other if there's any other ones, honestly, like this is kind of a big one, but I would really like to work for Progress someday in the United Kingdom, just because I really want to see like the UK wrestling scene. So many other scenes I want to see, but yeah, at this point, like I'm pretty much just like at this point, I will pretty much just take any opportunity I can get. Like I don't have my eyes on anything specific right now aside from long-term goals, but everything working towards those long-term goals. I'll just take whatever I can get, no matter how big or how small, as long as I am getting out there, making those connections and just networking and whatnot. Like that's pretty much how it is for me now. Just take everything slowly. Don't raise your stakes too high yet. Really build to those high stakes before you get there.
I agree there, man. You should take your time. That way you can learn everything and, get more experience under your belt. Because the better prepared you are, the better you're going to be when you get that chance.
Absolutely.
So, a couple more questions before I let you go, Mr. Ryan. If there's
Sure,
one
I got
thing,
time.
if there's one thing you wish you knew that you know now, what would that be?
Well, I said this earlier, but I do really wish that I was brave enough to take much more chances because for a while I felt like I was in some kind of bubble that I could never get out of. I always felt like if I went anywhere else, I would actually lose what I considered my one regular shot. I've actually been threatened to be fired from a company if I took another bookings with certain people, but yeah, now I realized that like 2 years ago, actually, I realized that I got to branch out. I had to get away from this. And I wish I realized that sooner, but in all honesty, like better late than never. And in all honesty, like I would not change any of that because in all honesty, they really did make me a better worker. And
Hey, your audio cut off right there, man. I think we lost you again. First your camera, now your audio. What's going on? Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Five Star Revolution podcast. Sometimes difficulties happen and we lose the guest. This is the first time this happened on the show, which is okay. Mr. Chris Ryan, if you can hear me, I'm not sure if you can hear me, but we can't hear you. This is the Five Star Revolution podcast.
yeah, I
Make
can,
sure.
I can still hear you. I can
All
still
right, there you
hear you.
go. There you go.
I can still hear you.
So my
Where did I get cut off? What was I saying?
um, you were talking about something you wish you knew that you know now.
Yeah, I get that. All right. Well, without repeating myself, I'll just say I wish I was brave enough to recognize when you're in a toxic environment and just be braver to just be braver to take better chances. I wish I knew that beforehand, but in all honesty, better late than never because it did make me smarter and it did make me just a better person.
And my to piggyback off that, you live and you learn. But if you're any wrestler and a promoter tells you not to go wrestle for somebody else, you should tell them to go fuck off.
I wish I could have said that earlier.
Anyway, my last question for you, Chris Ryan, is one piece of advice that you can give somebody looking to get into the professional wrestling business. What would that be?
Um, I will just say that this business is very tough. It can be very stressful, and you are taking a big chance just by being here, just being brave enough to persuade this. But just know that if you keep your head in the game, if you just keep that positive mindset, if you just remember the whole reason why you signed up for this in the first place, it will be easier. And above all, just just be a good person to people, because kindness really is contagious. And if you are in a very positive environment and you work with positive mindsets, it really does like make the whole experience better. The car ride with others is a lot more fun than taking that long journey by yourself.
Mr. Chris Ryan, that was very good advice, and I hope somebody that's listening to this podcast that's looking to become a pro wrestler listens to your words, my friend.
Thanks so much. Just keep your head in the game, guys. I promise you. And I don't make promises I can't keep. It gets better.
So, Mr. Chris Ryan, is there any social media that you would like to plug? Go right ahead, sir.
Sure. CJ underscore Chris underscore Ryan on Instagram and Twitter.com. Pretty much that's about it. Yeah, just give me a follow. I could really use it. I'm
Well,
almost at
Mr.
1,000 on Twitter, so hopefully we can like blow that up.
Well, the one winged dragon, Chris Ryan, right here on the Five Star Revolution podcast. We couldn't see his face, but we heard his voice. Sorry that we had some technical difficulties during the show, but it happens right here on the Five Star Revolution podcast. Share, share, share our YouTube and also our Facebook page, Five Star Revolution Podcast. Mr. Chris Ryan, we wish you the best of luck in your career, and we hope you have a great night, sir.
You too, man. Thank you so much.